BioBalance Healthcast, episode 275, Eating Disorders.
BioBalance Healthcast features conversations about positive aging. Your hosts are Dr. Kathy Maupin, Medical Director of BioBalance Health and a leading expert in treating symptoms of aging, and Brett Newcomb, a licensed professional counselor.
As a counselor, one of the issues that I always had to be sensitive about and aware of and have dealt with a great deal, not my primary focus or expertise, but it passes through the office all the time, the issue of eating disorders. And primarily the major ones, there are some that are really, really rare, like pica, which is eating inedible objects, like breaking a light bulb and eating that, or breaking a hanger and eating the wire.
I've never seen that, thank God.
Well, it's extremely rare. Almost no one sees it. But what we do see are, especially in adolescents, we see anorexia nervosa, and we see bulimia, and we sometimes see what's called bulimorexia, which is a combination of the two. Roughly the statistical interpolation of that is that 1 in 10 Americans have or know someone who has an eating disorder, a diagnosable, treatable eating disorder. About 4% of females and about 1% of the males suffer from eating disorders. And there are pockets, at least in my experience, pockets of teenagers who are more at risk. Cheerleaders, wrestlers, swimmers, models, dancers, for whom body image is such an important issue. What we know about eating disorders is that they are extremely complex and extremely resistant to treatment, and they have multiple causative streams. They can be psychologically caused, genetically caused,
Socially caused.
They're
societal.
It's part of what makes it so complex.
Twiggy.
Yeah.
When I grew up, everybody was skinny. I mean, my friends go, everybody in this generation just doesn't care so much about being skinny. I said, well, I think that's probably a good thing in many ways, because if you weren't like a stick,
right,
you were ostracized.
Well, but look at the evolution of that, and hopefully it's changing back. But if you go back and look at movie stars in the 40s and 50s, like Marilyn Monroe or Jane Russell or Jane Mansfield, they were not twiggy.
They were not.
By any description. They were robust and buxom lasses.
But the twiggy problem
came in the 60s.
Came when we were all rebelling.
Yeah.
We were rebelling against everything. And so it was a rebellion, and many times eating disorders are a rebellion.
Well, there's so much anger involved, and they are rebellion. And for instance, one of the common denominators for anorexia is that they tend to come from high stress, high maintenance, high profile families with very controlling fathers.
Yep, that's what I've seen, but sometimes controlling mothers.
Sometimes. Absolutely. I mean, sometimes from not high stress families. You just don't know. You cannot make a single assumption.
Well, part of it is we don't live there. We don't live with these girls. But when I've talked to them over and over, I only saw girls for this. I talked to them over and over by themselves.
Right.
And it was an internal need. Some people are internally motivated. It was an internal need to be perfect in every single way.
Or to have, if they felt imperfect, to have an area where they could be perfectly in control.
Yeah.
And one area, like a lot of times I work with families and they have students that rebel against parental authority by failing in school. Because you can't make me succeed in school. You can make me go. You can make me sit at the table and do my homework. Can't make me turn it in. That kind of stuff. You can't make me eat this food or retain this food. And so I spent a lot of years teaching high school. And I worked with a lot of kids, many of whom suffered from some of these issues. And I guess the point I want to make is it's not normal, disordered. There's a continuum of development. And it's kind of like the conversation you and I have regularly about what's the difference between a personality trait and a personality disorder. Everybody has narcissistic traits, but not everybody has narcissistic personality disorder.
True.
So how do you distinguish among them? And I can remember...
How do you distinguish among them?
Severity, and globality.
Right.
How global is this a concern for this individual? What's the extremity?
And what is it doing to their lives?
Yes. So I remember teaching, I used to teach psychology in high school, teaching a unit on eating disorders. At the end of class one day, this little girl who was a perfect child. I mean, she was beautiful. She was a dancer. She was a singer. She was a cheerleader. She made straight A's. She came from a wealthy family. Classic. But normally you just enjoy her and think, oh, she's wonderful. She was sitting in class after everyone left, frozen in her chair, crying. And I'm like, what's going on? And she said, she just listened to this whole lecture that I had given. And she said, I have been abusing laxatives for years, and I'm messed up. And now I don't know what to do, and I'm afraid to tell my parents they'll kill me. And I said, talk to me about it. And so she talked to me about it. I said, you know what? We're going to go from here. I had another class coming, but I got something covered. We're going to go to the counselor. The counselor's going to sit with you and talk to you. They're going to call your parents. Your parents are going to come in. Nobody's going to kill you. You're going to be in the hospital this afternoon. Because she had been abused laxatives so consistently and so chronically and so under the radar that nobody knew that she was doing that as a way to maintain her body image and her weight.
So you have to keep an eye on your kids.
Oh, my God. Do you ever? It's as bad as drug abuse.
I used to have mother and daughter come in. Mother's bringing the daughter in.
Right.
And I'd look at them, and they'd look like two little birds, little skinny little birds. And I had two different circumstances. One, they were both skinny. The other, mother was emaciated, and the daughter was not fat but not thin.
Right.
And not normal, but on the heavier side, but not emaciated.
Not like Mom.
No, so on the thin ones, they were both possessed with this belief that there was something wrong with them, because there was something wrong, but it was not food. Mm-hmm. I mean, they would come in and say, it is not about eating too much or too little. It is not about running too much. It is not. They tell me what it wasn't, which is exactly what it was.
Right.
And then they go through, and it was very frustrating for me because I knew what it was, and I tell them what it was. They completely ignored my advice, but they'd have to try to find some other answer. The girls with the rounder daughters and the very skinny mothers, I mean, they would sit there like this. They were rebelling against that mom. I mean, and I'd be trying to get them to counseling, and the mother doesn't think she needs it. And sometimes the daughter would end up being bulimic or something like that and end up in treatment.
Right.
And the mother refused to go to counseling.
Right.
Because the mother knew
Not
something
my
was
problem.
wrong with her.
Yeah.
She knew there was something wrong with her,
Right.
and she didn't want to take the responsibility for causing
Or
it in
deal
her
with her
daughter.
own issues.
Right. So it was huge. It was a huge problem.
Some of these disorders are diagnosed by dentists. Because
Wow.
another violation, in addition to laxatives, that they tend to do is vomiting.
Right.
And the
Bulimia.
dentist, from throwing up all that stomach acid, it eats the enamel on their teeth, and they start having tooth problems. But the cycle of addiction for that, entrapment, is so insidious and sneaky. I mean, when these girls start, and it's mostly girls, it's occasionally boys, but when these girls start, they literally have to put something in their throat to make themselves vomit. They put their finger or a pencil or something, and they'll vomit. So they eat something. Maybe they go to a family party or something, and they have to eat to please grandma or whatever. Then they sneak off and they go to the bathroom, they put their finger down their throat, they throw up. Then gradually they do that enough and consistently enough that they're so proud when they reach this stage. It's a real success for them. They can go in the bathroom and look at the toilet and decide they want to vomit, and they just projectile vomit. It just happens. It's like a switch they throw that makes it happen. But then the devil shows up, because then they have to do it, and they can't not do it.
So
and they're throwing
it's
up
an
all
addiction.
the time. Yes. And they have to be retrained. I mean, it's a conditioned response. They have to recondition the
Pavlov
response.
dog. Yeah.
And they don't necessarily want to, because of the greater control.
Well, they're getting all these great kudos for being thin and being, I mean,
yeah.
and nowadays women use cocaine to be thin.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're addicted to cocaine because
Right.
of the same reason.
Addiction.
But all of these things have the same.
Bulimia. I mean, the anorexia is the starving disease,
Yes.
and everybody should know. Sometimes the girls will disguise it. Anorexic girls wear heavy covering clothing. They get
Big clothes.
Big clothes, so that you don't see how skinny they are. You can't see their ribs. You can't see their wrist bones. They have downy little hair growth that
They stop
is
having
all over their
periods.
body. They stop. Amenorrhea is a symptom. But the bulimic girls look normal, and they eat regular meals, but they also eat outside of the regular meals a lot. And I can remember working with families that would eventually admit to me, before I come to lunch with my girlfriends or my mom or my aunt or whoever, my sisters, because I'll go out to eat and I'll say, I'm on a diet, I'm exercising, I'm being so good. I don't understand, I'm not losing weight. And people watch and they see that I'm a bird. I pick at my salad. I always get a salad. I don't use dressing. And then they'll tell me, as a therapist, before I go to that meal, I will stop at the donut shop and buy a dozen donuts and eat them all. And after I leave that meal...
So if you see that donut stuff on their face when they come
after I leave that meal, I will stop somewhere at McDonald's and get a Big Mac and a big order of fries. So nobody sees them eat. They closet eat. They hide food. They lock it away. Hide it in their bedroom, in their room. Big packages of M&Ms. Whatever it is that they use to take care of themselves.
I never got quite so much detail from people.
Yeah.
So you had an hour to spend with them, or 55 minutes to spend with them, and getting all the detail. I just knew that. There was a big problem with either eating or throwing up.
Right. Or laxatives.
And it was causing they'd come to me because they didn't have a period. And it was huge. It was a huge deal for me because I'm supposed to figure out why they're not having a period. So.
And some of them are calorie counters, and they will cook elaborate meals, and they'll know the caloric content of everything. How many calories are in this piece of lettuce.
It's hard to diagnose if they're your child, though. If you're looking at a child and
who's being so disciplined and likes to cook, and they fix meals for the whole family, and they make straight A's. And
they look successful and they're miserable inside, and it's really hard to find that out. I mean, without being invasive. I don't really like invasive parents because then the child has no privacy.
Helicopter parent.
But
that's part of the challenge for some of
you
these
need some
girls.
privacy
it's
and you
need control issue.
Right. I mean,
the power.
That's true, and they hold the power as long as they control what they eat.
And the ones that exercise obsessively.
Those are the ones that I had the most problems getting to look at it as a problem because there are so many people who are
There's
marathoners.
secondary gains and social benefits for being.
They have a whole group of friends that run, and they run every day, and then they break something, they run.
I had a client
broken
that
foot.
wore out 5 Stairmasters.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I loved it that much, but I don't wish I had the disorder.
She was obsessed by it. She had
a little
to do
obsession would help me.
Yeah, you could just get a little bit.
I hate the Stairmaster.
These girls, especially the exercisers, the obsessive ones, you put them in a hospital and you supervise them and regulate them, they will sneak out in the stairwell in the middle of the night.
They're doing sit-ups and push-ups by their bed,
exercise
too.
by the hour. Yeah. So
run up and down the stairs.
Because the hospitals monitor their food intake and their output and all of this, and they are forced to eat as a condition of getting privileges in the unit. Like you can watch TV, or you can go to the common room, or you can play card games. But then at night, when they're not so visibly observed, they will get up and exercise all night long.
We always think of this as a teenager's disease, but it lasts through a lifetime.
Right.
And many people, I mean, you wouldn't think of this, but on the first blush, but as you think about all the physiology that's going on, they have very little estrogen, they have very little testosterone, and they're either starving or working themselves out so much that they are so thin, they get osteoporosis.
Right.
As a young adult, and that's when you're building your bone. You build your bone up until the age of 40. And they're not building bone. They have frail little bones. So then we find out, because no one tests anybody before they're 40 or even 50, and we go, oh my God, you have osteoporosis. Well, that started a long time ago. I mean, this is an issue that we have to look at early on as a long-term, lifelong issue, even if they conquer the eating disorder.
Well,
they have to look at the health damage that they've done.
There's a label called body dysmorphic disorder, BDD. Some of these people look in a mirror and don't see what you see. So you look at them and you think, my God, you just got out of Auschwitz. and you really need some strong intervention. And they look at them side by side, and they see fat in their armpit or fat in their waist or fat over their hips. That is so much of an obsessive focus for them that they can't break the cycle of trying to get rid of that fat, even though it's killing them. And some of them, when they get treatment and the treatment is successful and they begin to come back, they have gone so far down that they've damaged their bodies irrecoverably. Karen Carpenter. Karen Carpenter got treatment and got better, and then she died because she had damaged her body so much it didn't work.
Now, high school, I had a friend who died of anorexia too. We didn't know what it was then. We didn't have a name for it.
Right.
We just knew she didn't eat, ever.
And societally, we have to stop focusing so much on thin girls. I was talking about teaching school. There was a cheerleader sponsor, a female, at the school where I taught, who had, at one time, I know because of what I was doing, had 3 girls on her squad that were diagnosed with eating disorders. She did not know that and should not necessarily have known that. I mean, you have the privacy issues. But she should have known in her profession, teaching high school and being a cheerleader sponsor, certain things she shouldn't do. Like, she had public weigh-ins every day for these cheerleaders. When they would come to cheerleader practice, they wear their little uniform, whatever it was, and they get on a scale and they track their weight every day. You should never do that with eating disorders. And they, for fundraisers, sold candy. And they had a minimum amount of candy they had to sell every week. Well, most of them were eating it and paying for it. And this gal was like, "We're so proud. We raised $10,000 for charity."
And then they throw up?
They throw up, or they use laxatives, or they exercise, or whatever they would do. But you're asking these girls to not focus on calorie counting, to focus on being thin, to focus on exercising, to be the social image of beauty at a time when they're very vulnerable. Many of them, again, high profile, high success, high stress families where perfection is expected. The Joneses don't look like that.
And let me just state that there are no perfect families.
Well, no, there are no perfect families.
And the ones that are like that are usually behind doors, very unperfect. But I tried not to sit with the moms at the school that my daughter went to, because they would sit there, seriously, they'd sit there and they would pick apart all the girls that had a little extra weight, and why doesn't she do this? And look at that fat butt. And I mean, these are moms. We should be examples. I mean, I would move down to the other end. They thought I was snotty. I just couldn't stand the criticism.
Right. You didn't want to get in a fight with them at the basketball game.
I mean, I just couldn't listen to it the whole time I was watching a field hockey game or a basketball game. So I would just move away. I wasn't going to be able to change them. No. Their lives were their lives at that point.
Until it hit in their family.
Right.
And even then, there could be denial. As you said, a lot of the moms wouldn't go to treatment. The girl had a problem. The girl needed to be fixed.
Right.
Or the dads wouldn't go to treatment. I can't tell you how many dads I had when I was working with teenagers that would say, "I can't be here because I'm important and I travel. I'll just send a check. You fix them."
Yeah.
And I would say,
that's enough.
Won't happen unless you're here.
Well, he's not home either.
No.
So maybe he doesn't have that much influence. That would be my thought. But
one hopes.
But with all of these disorders, eating disorders and body dysmorphia, looking at your body and seeing somebody who's different than what your eyes see are all psychological, social issues. They are something that society has pushed on us because we love thin beauty.
So the reason we're talking about it is because it's there, it's pervasive statistically, it's pervasive in reality. As parents, as people that love other people that may suffer from these issues, be aware. Be aware of laxative consumption, be aware of vomiting, be aware of calorie counting, be aware of obsessive anything.
Obsessive exercise.
And be aware culturally of these criticisms and transmitted expectations about thinness. It's deadly. And you don't want to do that to your children. You don't want your wife or husband to suffer from it. It's such a hidden thing until it's not, and by the time it's not, it can be deadly. So please pay attention. Be aware of the messages that you send about food and the messages that you send about appearance and the behaviors of your child. Thank you.
Thank you.
Email your questions or comments to podcast@biobalancehealth.com. You can find the BioBalance Healthcast on iTunes and on YouTube. For more information about bioidentical hormone pellet therapy and other reverse aging solutions, visit biobalancehealth.com or call 314-993-0963. You can find Dr. Maupin on Twitter at Dr. Kathy Maupin and on Facebook at facebook.com/biobalancehealth. Find Brett Newcomb at brettnewcomb.com.